engineering from Missouri University of Science and Technology. I did my undergrad in India in mechanical engineering. So I came to US in 2017 for my master's, and I'm doing a project with an industry. So instead of a 2-year master's, I had to make it a 3-year master's to wrap up my project. So I'm graduating this May. I'm defending my thesis the next month with 3 journal papers as a part of my thesis. So I've applied for my EAD card and I've given my start date as June 1st, basically. And I'm currently looking for full-time opportunities in the steel sector and the materials sector, basically.
Okay.
So that is my current situation.
Okay. So when did you apply for your EAD? OPT, I mean?
I applied in the last week of February.
Okay, last week of February. Okay. At that time, the COVID situation was not that bad, right?
It wasn't that bad. In US, they didn't expect it to boom so much. And from March first week, it started becoming a big.
Right. Okay. And what's your interest is? What's your interest wise? Like, what do you want to do? Because one of the things you mentioned in your questions that you are not that interested in doing PhD. You are more of a application engineer management type of a person that you want to see yourself, right?
I like research. So whatever I've done research so far, I've been pretty good at it. And all the positions and callbacks which I've got I've given 4 interviews so far. And all the interviews that I've given have been inclined towards the research position. So I'm actually interested in research, but I mean, ideally, what I would like to do is maybe be in the research side on this for 5 to 8 years from now, and then do an MBA from a good grad school. And I just want to get into the management side of things. But PhD is not an option. I've totally kept apart because in case I don't get a job or something, probably I would have to join a PhD from the spring of 21 or something.
Okay. Got it. And also, I want to ask you that based on your research, can you tell me name of couple of industries that you would like to work based on what you have done, based on what skill set you have?
So I'm concentrating right now at 2 sets of industries. One of them is the steel industry companies like Nucor, AK Steel, Aslag Metal, who basically work with steel rebars, manufacturing and stuff like that. The other side of industries I'm working is with respect to materials lab engineer. So like all your automotive industries and those kind of companies.
Right. Okay, got it. And you don't have to tell me the name, but can you tell me how you said you had a couple of interviews, right?
Yes.
How far those interviews has been, or have you talked to HR and they said, okay, we have to, or do you had on-site interviews already?
So the first 2 interviews that I had was in month of November and December. And those 2 interviews went really well. I was interviewed directly by the technical guy in both interviews. The person who was the hiring lead. And he was pretty happy. All my interviews went well. But he said it was an immediate hire position and they were looking forward to somebody who wanted to join early. Because in November, I was graduating in May. So I had like 6 months left. And they had an immediate hiring opportunity. And the other one interview that I gave was in the month of February. So what happened, the interview went really well. Everything was on course. I was ready to go for the next round. But the company got into a merger with another big company which doesn't hire internationals. So because they merged with them, they could put me in a spot. But side of things, all the 4 interviews that have gone very well. I haven't felt like after giving an interview, I could have done better or I lacked something.
No. My question was different. I won't say the outcome is 0 or there is an outcome.
Right now, I mean, the recent past, I haven't given any interviews. So all the ones that I've given went well, but they were immediate hire positions, so I couldn't go forward.
Yeah. So the outcome is 0, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. That was my question. Okay. Got it. So you have nothing in hand and you are looking for a job, if I have to say.
Yes.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay. That is much clearer. Okay. So let me go through your questions and through your CV. I think your CV is pretty good for a master's student, in my opinion. I think the CV as it is, the way you have presented it, and the way I see the formatting and the way you have put stuff there, I think this is pretty good. So I don't see much change there. Only thing you can do is probably
Okay.
highlight the topics. For example, education, technical skills. Just highlight them in bold.
Okay.
Okay, so
All
I
right.
mean that's a very simple thing, but other than that, I think it's very clean, clear, and nicely written. Okay. One thing probably you want to add is any leadership or any outreach activity that you have done. So add that too,
Okay. Sure.
whether it's in your
I'll give
bachelor's
that.
or whether it's in your current place where you are right now. Okay, because that
Okay.
has also add some value to it. Okay,
Okay.
whether you have done that in department, so that, for example, many people are in graduate student committee or organizing a conference in a department or even outside chairing something, or you have been part of a team or things like that. So just add 5 or 6 bullet points that too.
Sure. I'll do that.
Okay, okay, let's go to your questions now. And I'm gonna give you an option in my mind, like let's ignore the COVID crisis, and then I'm gonna talk about what this COVID crisis could do im-
Okay.
potentially and what should be the answer. So, looking at your question, looks like you are the guy who was looking for jobs in the steel sector and all that, because that's what you have done. Your background is right. So if you look at the steel
Yes.
sector industry, the companies would be, like a carpenter or ArcelorMittal and things like that. And the other would be is looking for companies, as you said, applied companies. So you can look at automotive, oil
Yep.
and gas, aerospace,
Renewables.
any material consulting companies and things like that. Okay,
Yep.
so that's where you should be targeting and everything. Now question comes, how easy and how hard is based on the current situation to find a job there, and being an international
Okay.
student, what are your options also. Okay,
Yes.
so my again, this is what I have I think, and based on the students I have counseled so far, and based on being in the industry, what I see. Okay, so just take it as a as a grain of salt, and then you can make your own decision. Okay,
Okay.
so I would say automotive sector, oil and gas, not in a good shape right now.
Okay.
There are already they are already laying off people right now. Not a good place to find a job. Okay.
All right. Yep.
Actually I'm gonna put a video for someone I spoke that got laid off because of this crisis in a automotive sector. But anyway, so my feeling is oil and gas, automotive, not a good sector. Let's talk about aerospace. Aerospace, any company which is either is an aerospace company or claim to be an aerospace company or work in any aerospace sector, do not hire international students most likely. And just because of the visa.
Okay.
Actually, most of the time they don't even hire people who have green cards. They need US citizens. Okay?
All right.
So don't
Yep.
waste your time. In my opinion, don't waste your time. And the reason I say
Okay.
so, this becomes more issue as of now, because most of the companies, if you look at aerospace companies, if you watch the news, if you look at aerospace companies or automotive companies, they are being bailed out by government now. And
Yep.
the requirement for them is to hire international, citizens, not international students. They want to hire their own
Okay.
people. They don't want to hire people from who are immigrants. Do you understand
Okay.
my point?
Yep.
So
I
my
understand.
feeling would be is that finding a job in those sectors would be extremely difficult. They are going through their own tough time anyway.
Okay.
But since the other reason is because most of these contracts are defense related contracts and things like that, where they don't hire international anyway. Okay, so the question comes, what are you going to do now then? That's the point. And
Okay.
as I said, You can find a job still. I think you can still find a job in a steel sector, like companies who make steels, manufacture them. So that means companies like, as you said, ArcelorMittal or
Nucor and stuff.
Carpenter, yeah, or these companies. But again, I don't. I still have to tell you that they probably not going in a good phase if this crisis moves much further. So let's say,
Okay.
there you have to watch, as I said, you have to keep look an eye on the news, how long. The problem right now is if this crisis goes only for end of this April, things will be fine. But if this crisis moves further, then there will be a huge trouble as we move along. They are already talking about
Okay.
recession and all that in every sector. So, that means less hiring, more firing.
Okay.
Okay. And that these are type of things we have seen when I graduated in 2008. There is a housing crash and all that. So we have gone through that part also. We have seen how bad the situation was there. There was no jobs basically even at that time, and now they are saying the situation is like a Great Depression, 1930s. So anyway, what software skills can I manage material engineering? So one thing I would say for a long run, or which would be helpful for you, gets one thing I would say definitely that if you uh, project yourself or your CV as a as a material engineer or material science engineer, your options might be very less. I would say make your CV which looks more like a materials, as well as you have a skill set in manufacturing, because
Okay.
manufacturing is one sector which will grow, in my opinion.
Okay.
So what skill set do you need to be a manufacturing engineer? So there is a sweet spot between a person who is a material scientist and has a skill set in a manufacturing too. So that person would,
Got it.
in my opinion, can bridge the gap between both and will have much more options. So what options?
I currently have a green belt in Six Sigma.
Yeah, yeah. So that was I coming to. So that will help a
Uh,
lot. That will help a lot.
okay.
Yeah. So what I'm
All
saying,
right. Is there
emphasize.
any other thing you did?
I do, if I have something in my mind, I will send you an email. But in top of my head, anything that has to do with quality assurance, manufacturing, so Six Sigma would be nice, and any quality certification if you can get on Coursera or any other thing. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Those would be helpful.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I'll work on that.
Yeah. As far as software skills are concerned, definitely if you have a software skill, if you know the design software and the analysis software. So, for example, if you know ProE, AutoCAD, if you know ANSYS, Abacus, if you can do structural analysis, those are the skill set which will be needed.
Okay.
Okay, so definitely if you have both of these skills, I would say ProE, AutoCAD, and any structural analysis software, Fluent, or there are so many of them, Abacus, Answers, and so forth. Those will be very, very helpful no matter what, because all these companies
Okay.
see, the idea of having those softwares is the runtime that they take to qualify any product is very, very less. I mean, think of even if you can think of like a ventilator, for example, right? To make an actual ventilator, to test a prototype in an actual way takes a lot of time, but in ANSYS you can run that analysis pretty quickly and validate it. So what I'm trying to tell you, that having a software skill like that comes very hand, and those are the people who will be helping out, and especially these are the work you can do remotely too. Do you understand my point? You don't
Okay.
have to go. So let's say if there's a lockdown further, and then the government says you have to maintain some sort of a social distancing and so forth, you can still work at home. And those are the people who are really working at home. People who have manufacturing skills on, or I say hands-on skill, they are just sitting at home. So think from that sense also.
Okay.
And then your question is, I see a lot of potential in R&D companies like Lockheed, SpaceX, Boeing, GE. Again, all these companies you mentioned, I won't even touch them. You